Welcome to Tweaks, the English class. Today we are going to study a poem that is The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. We know that Robert Frost is a celebrated American poet. He writes simply and insightfully about common people, common expression, ordinary experiences, and day-to-day life and activities, and the problems that we face in our day-to-day life. So insightfully, he has written most of his works, most of his poems, and this one, as and when we will study the poem, you will understand that very easily that how insightfully Robert Frost has decorated or and weaved the words in this through this poem. So let's start the poem today. Today the poem is The Road Not Taken. Uh, Before going to the poem, let's you should know that in our life there are many problems, there are many options in front of us, and we require to opt for the suitable one. But in each and every cases, we may not be able to select or opt the perfect one or the suitable one very easily, and sometimes we may be in a mental tussle, in a mental tussle of decision making when we are not generally able to make a well informed decision about which way or which option to follow, and there may be some confusion even after opting out the option. And this poem also, the poet was walking, and in a juncture of decision making or in a point of decision making, uh, he had two options, and out of which one was to be or request to be selected by the poet. So let's start the poem and you will very easily understand what actually the poet want to say. The road not taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveller, long I stood and looked down, one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. The road symbolizes our life. The road symbolizes our life. So, two roads diverged in a yellow wood. The poet was walking down a road which separated and took different directions. The poet was walking and the road took two different directions. And here the term yellow wood denotes the season of autumn. The worn out leaves generally makes or creates yellow wood. Yellow woods denotes the season of autumn and reflects forest with worn out leaves. And sorry, I could not travel both. The poet felt sorry. The poet felt sorry as he was a single person, and so he had to choose one of them. And sorry, I could not travel both. The poet felt sorry because he could not both travel along both the roads or both the paths because he is a solo traveler, he is a single person. Long I stood. He took time to decide which road to follow. The poet stood at the juncture for a long time. Long I stood. The poet stood for a long time at that point of decision making, at that point of juncture, or at that point of decision making, and looked down one as far as I could for a long time and looked at the path very carefully. Very carefully the poet inspected the paths in front of him to where it bent in the undergrowth. The term undergrowth means dense growth of plants, bush, grass, and different types of shrubs. So the poet is clear that he could see only up to that point of the path. It took just before it took a bend. amid the undergrowth. The poet could see the path till it took a bend amid dense growth of plants and bushes. So clearly, the poem says that two roads separated in a yellow wood, in a autumn wood, where which reflects the worn out leaves, and the poet felt sorry because he could not travel in both the ways. And be one traveler because he is a solo traveler, single person. Long I stood. The poet stood for a long time in order to decide which way to follow, and looked down one as far as I could, and inspected the paths, and looked at the paths for a long time very carefully just before making a well informed making a well informed selection to where it went in the undergrowth growth. And but it was not possible for him uh, to watch every segment of the road because it took a bend amid the bushes, plants, or undergrowths. This is why the poet was not able to inspect the road from the beginning to the end. Next paragraph. Then took the other, just as fair. The poet was looking at a path for a long time. I already said that the poet was inspecting the path as he was under confusion, or he was apprehensive of his selection, that the selection he was going to make may not be fruitful in future. This is why he took time to decide if it was suitable for him, and then took the other path because he felt that both were equally good. Then took the other. There are two paths. The poet took one and left the other, and having perhaps the better claim. And the poet also thinks that the choice he had already made uh, is undoubtedly a better option. The poet also thinks that he has chosen the better option. So the poet was walking, and in that point of decision making, he took time to take a well informed decision. He opted for the second choice, and while traveling along the road, he thought that it may be that I have chosen the better option because it was grassy and wanted wear. The poet chooses the path because it was grassy, offbeat. This means it had not been used by many people. It had not been used by pedestrians. So generally in our day-to-day life, we just want to take offbeat decisions in our career related decisions. We generally try to go for those career options not generally which are not generally for the common folks, and which can be good for making difference in career, and which can be prospectful for future. Though as for that, the passing there, after passing after he had walked along the path for some distance, he realized that both the paths were equally worn out. Though as for that, the passing there, he was passing through the road, and while passing through the road, had worn them really about the same. The poet realized that the way, the path he has taken is not different from the one he had left for other day. So this road was also equally worn out. Next, and both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. And both that morning equally lay. That morning both the paths were similar. That morning, when the poet was in a point of decision making, it seems that both the paths were similar. In lips, no step had trodden black. The leaves that that were fallen on the paths were still green. That means the road is yet to be taken by the crowds. No one had walked over the leaves on the paths, so the leaves were still green in color. They were fresh, they had not turned pale or black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. The poet decided that that day he would take the second path and keep the other for another day. Yet knowing how way leads to way, yet knowing how way leads on to way, the poet knows. I know. I, that means the poet, I knew that one way leads to another. You are going to this way meets another way, and that meets another way, so a way leads to another. I doubted if I should ever come back. The poet doubted, apprehended that he could not go back, or he could not return on the juncture of decision making. That means, I mean, where he had started from. So a road leads to another, that road leads to another. This, if this happens in course of time, he will reach to some point or somewhere where it's almost impossible to return where he started from. This is a common thing. This is a very regular instance in our life. Because even in our day-to-day life, once we choose an option, if we select a career option, even we must keep on moving ahead. We try to go ahead as much as possible with that option, and after passing, after along going along with that option for a long time, we never get a chance to return and take the other option that we had left earlier. So suppose after passing your 10th board exam, or 12th board exam, sorry, 10th board exam, you have selected science stream, and after studying 2 years 11 12 and 3 years graduation BSc, you are thinking, no, why I have opted for science? It would have been better if had I selected commerce. I could have become a good, an affluent chartered accountant. So after that point of time, after 5 years walking along the science stream, it's impossible to return to your selection or decision making stage. That means after the class 10th board exam days, so you will never be able to return to where where you have started from your science study. So you will not be able to return to your class 10 days, and you will never uh, get back that 5 years. So this happens very often in our life, and so we should generally uh, we should be very well informed when taking a decision. It should be backed by logic, future prospects, and sufficient information. on that field of study or on that field of career. I shall be telling this with a sigh. In future, the poet says that the poet says apprehends that in future he will take a deep breath and say, deep breath and say, somewhere ages and ages hence, once upon a time, long ago, that what would the poet say? That once upon a time, somewhere ages and ages hence, the poet says that in future he will take a deep breath and say that once upon a time, two roads diverged in a wood, and two roads, two paths separated in a wood, and he, the poet, opted out the second option. He was in a point of decision making to opt for a choice out of two options. Two roads diverge. So the two roads are nothing but the two options that we generally have in most cases. It may be more than two. So he was in a point of decision making. The poet was in a point of decision making to opt for a choice out of two options. These two roads are actually the two options. I took the one less traveled by. The poet took the path that was less traveled by commoners or common people. The poet traveled along the path which was less traveled by people, or less traveled by common crowds or crowds, and that has made all the difference. And that has made all the difference. The decision he took on that day decided his future. So the decision you are going to take after your 10th board exam will be more or less, not more or less, will be responsible for your future making. A good and well informed decision undoubtedly pay you with better dividends. Similarly, a thoughtless decision may spoil one's career, and it's never possible to go against the relentless marching of time. And each and everyone on this planet are bound to be ravaged by the relentless marching of time, and we are under the influence of relentless marching of time. And you know very well, you know that time and tides waits for none. So time lost means it's lost, it can never be returned. So in order to ensure a good career, we should take well informed decisions. And the poet has given a message for all the students, for all, each and everyone. Even the story or the poem can give a strong message to all the students that a student should be wise and be careful while making career and related choices or option choices, because a well-informed decision will suitably help him to explore diverse future characterized with success, affluence, and gain, fame, and fortune. So thank you for watching the video. I think today's analysis will prove to be a help for you. And those who are new to my channel, you can stay with me by subscribing the channel. And if you like the video, don't forget to give a thumb. So thank you for watching the video.